with bipartisan support, and the governor, I think, will go along with it. That's huge. So once in a while, something good happens. Way in the back with that nice-looking hat.
Hey, sir, there's such a strong connection between drug abuse and public safety. You know, where more and more kids are getting into drug abuse. They don't really fully understand that drugs are bad for them. And what do you think the chances would be of kind of re-implementing or implementing the idea of a stronger anti-drug education program in the schools, so that we attract kids to, you know, good jobs and becoming upstanding citizens rather than, you know.
Well, we call it Just Say No, right? I mean, that was one of the programs, Just Say No. And you shake your head with authority. I think you know what's going on in K-12 as far as drug abuse education. I mean, there's hardly any, is there?
Hardly any that aren't.
No, but my point is, Just Say No course curriculum.
Oh.
I remember in the 60s, we had one day a year, and a lady came to the gym and everybody got in. She talked about all the stuff that was not even compared to what we're dealing with now. And that was all we had then. And then we did embrace it just a little bit in some of our health courses. But now I think it's pretty much just being weeded out. Excuse that reference. It really is. I mean, there's no societal focus on that. Now, we talk about rehabilitation of criminals and stuff and drug rehabilitation in the community, but we're not putting our bucks where our voices. That's one of the reasons realignment won't work. It was already inadequate in our community, and we dumped tens of thousands, 40,000 to 80,000 eventually, unrehabilitated drug-based felons in our community, and without the resources to treat them. And some can change their ways, but it has to take sustained treatment. Some have to be in residence treatment, and if you walk away from it, there better be a consequence. In the governor's realignment, if you're put in a drug program, again, it was part of the bill I was studying this very day, and you decide to walk away from it, okay, bye. Come back again. Way in the back.
I wanted to tell you that today I learned that if somebody has script for drugs, it's okay to have children in that room when the drugs are being grown.
I didn't know if
I
they.
was told that today by the sheriff in Yuba County.
Now, say that again. If they have drugs.
They have script to grow, that they grow their own.
Oh, script. Yeah. You can have children. That could be, you know.
Children in the room where that's being grown.
And I would charge them, and my deputies would charge them with child endangerment.
That's not happening.
But it's not happening. No, it is not happening now. That's okay because that's a livelihood, right? And they've got a right to it by law, and they have well, they have a right to grow it, and it'll be for their personal use, shall I say? You know, truckloads of that. Sir.
I'd like to ask you, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm a good Republican, donate money, I go to church every Sunday. But you know, I never hear any of you people talk about executing killers, rapists. You know, listen to me. If you would take a drug pusher and execute him, it'd go away. A human being sees another one being shot on a post, he's not going to sell drugs tomorrow morning. Pretty soon you get rid of him. But this liberal mindset we have with Obama, all his IRS, Benghazi, they cover it up. Nobody speaks out. Our Republican Party, they sit on there, they don't do nothing. You don't hear nobody complain, do you?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, sir, you're talking to the one. These folks know a little bit about me. Some of you do at least. 15 years I was chairman of the Board of Prison Terms. And what was one of my powers and authorities as chairman? To consider the clemency request of a death row inmate who appealed to the governor for clemency once the Superior Court set their execution date. And 10 times during those years, 8 inmates were before my board, appealing for clemency from 2 different governors. Wilson, Davis. Now, 2 of them got 2 bites of the apple because of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, meaning they came back to appeal for clemency twice. But 10 times I convened a proceeding. I did not dignify it by calling it a hearing. But everybody who were for the death penalty and for that guy and who were against it and for it, they all came and said their piece. Some of the hearings lasted an hour, one of them was 6 hours. Very emotional. The victims, who the person killed. And I think it's safe to say there are very few, and I would say that's under 25 people in the state of California who have personally reviewed more death row inmate life histories, and that goes from the womb to today, than I have. And let me tell you folks, if you get on death row, you've done a lot more than just kill somebody. I conduct a seminar every year for the Ag Leadership Fellowship at San Quentin Prison on the death penalty. I believe it. And I witnessed the execution of one Darrell Keith Rich, who killed 5 women in 2 of the counties I long represented, Sonoma, Shasta, and Tehama counties. Darrell Keith Rich. And it was almost the last official act I did as chairman of that board, and I felt I needed to witness that which I had played such a major role on. And that night when I came out, the press swarmed around me, said, "Senator, you just witnessed the execution of Darrell Keith Rich. What do you feel?" I said, "I feel the death penalty is a just sentence, and tonight justice has been done." Now they wanted more. I said, that's all that needs to be said. Now why hasn't it happened? Call it the courts, litigation.
This problem, this gentleman was talking about, you got these people in these black robes, and once they get into the court system, they don't go by the Constitution anymore.
Well, and we're fighting back.
What feels good for them? They start making deals.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. On that point, we just had a victory. Remember Prop 36 was going to ban the death penalty? No, it's not 36, it's 32. And narrowly, there were 5 of us that led that whole fight in the whole state of California. And we didn't have any money. And a police union gave us a little bit of money. We raised a little bit from a few more, and we at least put on a campaign that get rid of the death penalty. Folks had millions. But we won.
But he was talking about judges not being constitutional in their courtroom.
That's right, and they aren't sometimes. I would agree. I disagree with judges all the
Why
time.
aren't they reprimanded?
How many people in the state of California has been executed since we...
Let's see. I was a part of 8 executions, and
No,
I
I'm
think
talking about the last 10 years.
in the last, the first I dealt with was in 1992, and I should have that figure in my head, sir, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 or so. Now, there would have been 0 in 25 years previous to 1992 when I heard the first case. That was a fellow named Robert Alton Harris. 25 years went by. And what happened? The Supreme Court of the United States and of the state of California invalidated the death penalty. It was reinstated by a proposition, I think 77, the year of Prop 13, and they still ignored it. I authored a death penalty legislation in '82 that expedited the appeal process. But in this case, the court, you're right on, sir. The Roseburg court ignored that law. Jerry Brown. They ignored it. That does happen. There are a lot of reasons. And the death penalty, I mean, we had that small victory, but the forces to get rid of the death penalty are clear and present. In fact, finally, over my protestations and successes for 4 years, in the fourth year, last year, I won 3 years in a row. In the 4th year, I got it through. A legislator got rid of life without parole for a juvenile special circumstances murderer. Now that's a juvenile who does what gets somebody on death row. They got life without parole. You can't believe how many arguments this guy and his friends put forth about our children. Our kids that shouldn't be locked up forever. They should get a chance to be out. Our children. I was offended. And I call it the silent scream from the grave of that victim, that Chelsea King, that Amber Dubois, Polly Klass. Mark Klass is a very good friend of mine. We talk here weekly. You bet. You're talking to the right guy about the death penalty, sir. Let's have about one more.
It's something local that's affecting us.
Yeah.
Well, while you're thinking about that local one, I wanted to talk about just how crappy our courts are. When last year the federal government said that rape is an occupational hazard of military service, I don't see California stepping up to help the victims. of military sexual trauma, telling the feds, all right, salute them, and you know what finger I'm referring to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. What can you do to help us?
Well, we fight back, and that's a new case, but I had extensive involvement. So 30 years ago, when the Roseburg Court opined that rape did not constitute great bodily injury. That was a finding of the majority of the Roseburg Court. You think I disagreed with that? You betcha. Now, what did I and many of you do at that time? We ousted 3 Supreme Court justices called Berg, Grodin, and Reynoso. You remember that? Now, sir, that, you want to get even with the courts, that had telling effect for about 15 years. The courts straightened out a bit and started looking over their shoulders. Now, I'm not what I necessarily call a court basher, but let me tell you, I've had a lot of bouts with the courts, and I was one of the leaders. And you look at any of the literature and newspaper stories at the time of the committee to oust Roseburg, Grodin, and Reynoso, who found rape did not constitute great bodily injury. Yeah, you wonder what planet the courts are going on. We've got Supreme Court justices now that evaluate the Constitution based on contemporary world standards, right? And I had a picture of me with one of those judges, and I took it off the wall.
So we're wondering, what are you gonna do about it?
Ma'am, I told you what I'm going to do about it. I will reaffirm it one more time. On a case-by-case basis, I will be involved. And a broad basis, I will be involved. I have been involved. Are you not listening to what I said?
You know what? We're not condemning you. We're supporting you. We're not challenging what you're doing. What we're asking you, how we're going to get some more help.
That's the point. I've been talking about all, you rally that you're doing it right here by being here, sir. You're doing it.
But we're getting disgusted.
Yes, but you're having. Yeah, but didn't I just tell you on the death penalty that you care so much about? You just won. Albeit narrowly.
What, they're turning the criminals loose? What's going to happen someday when there's more criminals than there is of us?
Enough of us will get mad enough that the legislature will change things. Right now, folks, you go asking the average citizen, crime is not one of their top 5 dang issues. It's frustrating the heck out of me. Why? Because if it was, I wouldn't have near the trouble I'm having fighting AB 109. Good heavens. About one more, huh, Larry? I know you want to get on to other stuff. We got other speakers. Let's get this fellow right here.
Thank you.
I'll do it real quick and then I'm going to stop because we got other speakers.
No,
All due
it's your
respect,
time.
this is my first night here. Look around the room. What is the average age of the people in this room tonight? How many young people are here?
Back there.
How many young people are here? He's saying, what can you do? How many people here are in their 20s or 30s?
That's right. What do we need to do? We need to
One, two.
And it's the first guy, Louis, first guy I shook hands with when I came in here. No, he was the second.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Where the hell are the young people?
Well, that's our job, sir. That's our job, to motivate our children and our grandchildren in the community by our example, to show them the different pathways, to be what I call the wall for them to crash into, which is when their life and values are at stake and we say, heck no. Or the times to let them go sailing through and fall on their face and help them pick up. We need to be the example to get them here. They're going to come here. They're not going to come walking in here just because they read the Tea Party's meeting tonight. No, sir, they will not. No, ma'am. We have got to go recruit them and bring them here and show them. And the most important thing we have to do, we've got to show them there's a reason for them to come here. And when they are here, give them a reason to come back. Not by evaluating on what we care about, but understanding and relating, empathy is the word in criminal justice I use, empathy to what they care about. And then we'll have a winner. We'll have a winner. I had 4-H'ers in my office today. You talk about an upper, wow, man. They're not all going to go into farming, but they are imbued with great values. That's the hope. So each of us, mentor, 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 and try to bring younger folks in here. But we can't bring them in here for us bitching and complaining. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear the problems, that they want to give us some solutions. that they can relate to, that makes sense to them. Why developing a job skill is helpful to you all your lives. Why completing your education is really important. Why going nuts on drugs is not a good thing. That's what we need to do. You bet. That's something we here tonight ought to be alarmed about. There aren't more of our children and grandchildren here or caring about what we're talking about, what we care about. That's our job, to be mentors. Sir?
Earlier you said that there's 23 bills about laws
Yes, sir.
in the elected legislature, and you said they're going to pass on. Is there anything that we can do to limit the effect on that or stop some?
Well, I'm rallying the NRA and the California gun owners and Gun Owners of America, California Rifle and Pistol Association every day. And here's what I tell them to do. You go out and communicate with other people you know around California. You don't have to worry about your elected representatives up here. We're at the fore on this one. But we've got to get other people engaged and involved. I had fun here a few months ago. Some reporter came, how do you feel about these gun control bills, Senator? I said, well, let me sum it up this way. Last weekend I traveled to Los Angeles and was given the second time in 25 years the California Rifle and Pistol Association Legislator of the Year Award. Do I need to comment any further? Yes.
I'm a secretary of the 115 party, and I'm constantly receiving things asking for signatures, forward out to people and gather signatures. Does it do any good? Because I'm not sending these out.
Well, you know, to gather signatures on, you know, opposed AB, blah, 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 support, you know, that may at best get counted, and the staff will say the legislator who will not look at any of them, or if they do, they'll look at one that just says the heading, and they'll see all the signatures. But that doesn't carry much weight. The most weight that you can have in communicating to a legislator is based on your having a relationship with that legislator. Spending time getting acquainted with them. When they're out in the district, meet them. Come to the office, meet them. Get to meet with their staff. Become on a first name basis with that legislator. Well, often I love that kind of thing.
Well, thank you for speaking respectfully to me then.
Oh, ma'am, listen. You know, somebody got mad at me one time and said, what do you believe in? I just don't understand what you believe in, Senator. I said, I tell you what I believe in.
Working for the people.
No, I said to them, I believe in your right to be here vigorously opposing what I'm saying. And I'll fight for that right. That's what I fundamentally believe in. Pardon?
If we send letters to the different legislators, senators.
No, the letters, yes, they do help.
I'm just talking about the paper, the country.
Yeah, the letters make a difference, okay? That's much more personal.
Emails.
If it's a boilerplate letter, you just sign it, you know, same thing as a signature sheet. But if you personally write a letter, yes, that carries weight.
What about emails? Is that the same?
Yeah, we go through the emails. Back here is Curtis Grima on my staff. He just stepped outside. He's at my headquarters up in Chico, and over here is Laura Nichols, right here from Yuba City. They're the front line, and you know what they do? They email me stuff. And they say, hey, Senator, I got a communication. And some of them are nice letters kind of thing. Gee, thanks for what you're doing. And once in a while, we get some say, you're a big idiot. And they send those in to me, too. And you know what? I often call that person up. I said, I understand you called me a big idiot. Okay, let's talk about that.
Do you suppose we could get Feinstein and Boxer and some of them to come down?
Man, they don't even read the bills. Right? No, I don't think so. Yes, ma'am.
Well, this is off the subject, but it's something that I feel very strongly about. I think parents of young people today feel very strongly about it. But I did my undergraduate and graduate work at UC Davis, and now I do outreach for the Alumni Association.
The alumni, yeah.
Yeah, and I talk to students all the time, very qualified, very intelligent kids. And a lot of them, you know, it's okay to go to state college or UA college or whatever, but I ask them, Because they're
Well-
wonderful schools, and it breaks my heart because I know what a wonderful background and a wonderful education and everything that I received, and I just, you know, when I hear the same thing over and over again, I don't have the money, I can't afford it. And it breaks my heart when I hear these kids say this.
Well, you know, first of all of the Senate Republicans just supported the so-called middle-class scholarship.
Right.
Now, why did we do that? It was not, as it originally was, attached to a great big tax increase.
Yeah,
That's how Perez was going to fund that thing. And we said, nope, we're not going to do that.
yeah,
If we're going to take it from the general fund as a priority in the general fund, competing against welfare and other stuff,
yeah,
then we're happy to say that that is a priority.
yeah.
And that is a priority. That's a small step today.
Good.
Another step, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, UC particularly and CSU are not the best stewards of our resources. And whatever the legislature chooses not to give them, because we don't think that ought to be a priority, we, the legislature, the majority of it, or the governor, they just go raise the tuition. I carried a bill in 1980 that I got to both houses that prohibited the raising of tuition under these circumstances for UC. I have never dealt with a lobby force that fought more dirty than UC to kill that bill. And I keep reminding them that, those who were around at the time, how dirty they attacked me for not wanting to let them raise tuition. We need to have good budget scrutiny of how CSU and UC is spending its money. We've had some victories. The last hit of CSUC got in a whole bunch of trouble, even with Democrats, paying a new president $400,000 a year. In your face, and he's coming in asking me for money. In fact, that guy, I won't name him, came into my office in his regular visit last year asking for more money. And I said, well, what are you doing to be more efficient in money? And he stammered one stupid example of the forming of some obscure consortium. I said, Charlie, is that all you got? Well, I said, that's not sufficient. You're not doing anything except asking for more money to keep doing what you're doing, and some of it ain't working, Charlie. And I said, then you pay this president $400,000, you think anybody's going to be happy? You don't understand, Jim. Swear to God, I'm quoting him directly. He said, oh, their wives can't work. I said, what? Yeah, their wives can't work. Oh, so they need $400,000. Yeah, and their kids have to go to school, college. Oh, well, I said, Charlie, remember when I have 3 boys in college? You're not getting any crocodile tears out of me on that argument, sir. And then I said the telling thing. I said, Charlie, I think it's time for you to do something else. Now, not because of me, although I was an element. 2 months later, he retired. But that's the mentality we're talking about. Just give us more money. Just give us more money. All the professors going to get a raise last year. It's not the year. And I want to introduce us, our supervisor, Stan Cleveland, just came in. Folks, Stan.
Thanks for that, but I actually did want to say something about the 2 representatives we have. Actually, they're both in town right now, doing one on ag and one on the Tea Party. Is that while I don't completely agree with them all the time on things, I can tell you that they definitely listen, and I agree most of the time. I have to admit that. But they get in and they do the things that are tough. They know it's going to be a fight. They know they're going to be tore apart all the time. They're not afraid to go out there where the disposal is churning to chew them up. And I've kind of been like that also. And Nielsen and Logue have helped me probably a dozen times now on issues that are quite controversial and helped me get through them. They're currently doing 2 or 3 things right now. Nielsen has two items that he's helping me with that helps the county, that helps the people. One has to do with the setter buttes and the feral pigs. He helped out, Nielsen's and staff helped out with sedimentation damage from flooding issues. Got legislative changes, I think it's 2 years ago now, that I brought to him, and he carried that. There's 3 or 4 other things that he's carried, and he's out there doing the hard work, and I know you want to vent and everything. Sometimes I vent at him too myself, I must admit. But it's just, then we get into the deep discussions. Help them out, be at these things. Go down to the state like we have in the past and try to talk with the legislators there and the ones that don't agree with you. Let them know you're there. The personalized letters, those letters, the form ones you get sent out, look them over carefully. Don't just sign them. Change some of it a little bit, rewrite it, put it on your computer, do it a little different, and change some of those, and it'll make it more effective. There's little ways you can do like that, and it works. I want to thank you, Jim, for the hard work you've been doing, how much you've helped my ability to represent Sutter County. Because without you, I would not have been able to accomplish the things that I have been able to do. I mean, I need your help. And my ideas usually come from the citizens anyway, like they're supposed to. So they're the ones that are telling me, I am telling you, and you are trying to do it. Dan Logan's doing the same thing. We need to make sure that you tell us board members what's going on, help us to get it digested, to send it to the next level. And we are trying to do that for you right now, some of us are. So thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you, Senator
Dan, I want to thank you too, folks. We are partners, we in local government, and they have the toughest job, tougher than Dan, Logan, and I, because all this nonsense of the state's been dumped on them. We're trying to help them untangle it. I do have to make a last observation, Mr. Chairman. This man in the back there has that T-shirt that says non-typical. Well, I just clicked in my head that I want to have a goal. You see, what we are standing for now is kind of looked at as non-typical. The Tea Party, they're the crackpots, the idiots, the right-wingers, the whatever. We're the non-typical. Well, folks, I submit that ain't correct. We are the mainstream America. And don't you forget it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Awesome. As Senator Nielsen mentioned,